We're going to talk about Lester Young. Billie Holiday referred to him as Prez. Many of us think because he was considered the president of saxophone. Not exactly it. You see, in this time, 20s, 30s, the racial situation in this country was pretty bad. And a young Billie Holiday had seen some hope and inspiration in the form of a man named Teddy Roosevelt, who was president of the United States. She thought he had a good heart and had some good things on his mind and was going to do some good things for this country, and especially for people who look like us. And it was that in mind that she called Lester Young Prez, because of his good heart. That's really what it was all about, his good heart. Now we have to understand, he was born in Woodville, Mississippi. I'm gonna leave that alone. That's down there, a little bitty town near the Louisiana border. He was kind of raised in New Orleans in a very musical family. Father was a teacher and a band leader. His mother was a seamstress, but he had a lot of relatives who were musicians. And his brother was a drummer, his sister was a singer, and they kind of had a family band that worked and earned money. And when little Lester was just too young to earn money as a musician, he sold newspapers and signed shoes on the streets of New Orleans starting at age 5. So these are pretty destitute times. The black codes are being instituted, segregation is being entrenched, and it was this situation that became a tremendous rub between young Lester and his family. And he started playing with the family band on clarinet and later saxophone. He preferred the tenor to the alto. And somewhere, around 18, he decided he had to leave because he had a difficult time touring in the South with his family band because of all the segregated facilities. He just could not stand being put in the place of a child of a lesser God. He just couldn't do it. So he ran away and ended up in a band called the Bostonians. That's a long way from Woodville, Mississippi. And he would play for a while up north, but then he'd come back home because he still loved his family. He just did not love the South. He didn't love the South. Eventually, he found his way up into Oklahoma, where he met Walter Page and the Blue Devils. Getting a little story here. The Blue Devils, Walter Page, Count Basie, Freddie Green, those guys, yeah. Lester Young was a Blue Devil. And that is eventually how he became a member of the Count Basie Orchestra. And he stayed in that band until December 13th, 1940. Now the story is that being from the South, Mississippi and New Orleans, Lester Young was a kind of superstitious guy. And they had this gig on December 13th, 1940. It was a Friday. Friday the 13th is not a good day. And so Lester kind of refused to play that. I'm not playing on Friday the 13th. And let's just say this led to his exit from the Count Basie Orchestra. There are other stories about it, but this is the best we can determine led to the end of his association. And he went on to do other things around the country, eventually in New York, He had met Billie Holiday in jam sessions, and with her short appearances with the Count Basie Orchestra. Of course, Billie did not like the big band. She preferred small combos, and she and Lester became great friends, including him moving into her apartment. And of course, she has shared that apartment with her mother, so we're not trying to say that anything was going on between them, because I'm sure Mom would have been protecting her daughter, so to speak. And Billie denied it. And we do know Lester had 3 different marriages, so we don't think that there was anything really going on. They were just really good friends, and they continued to play and record for the rest of his life. He did a lot of great recordings with everybody, including a lot of the members of the original Basie band from time to time, Joe Jones and Roy Eldridge and people like that. Toured all over the place. One of his final tours, matter of fact, his final tour was in Europe, and they said he did not eat very much, but he did drink a lot, and came back home. Did not last long before he died. But a side story to this is when he was with the Basie band, they were in L.A. in 1944 and were inducted into the Army. What? Inducted into the Army. He was just playing a couple of gigs. He was no longer a regular member, just filling in, along with Joe Jones. Well, that didn't work out so well for Lester. He was just not the military type. Joe Jones stayed 2 years and got out. He did everything right. Somehow, Lester got caught with some funny smelling tobacco and some alcohol, which was against the rules, and got locked up in what they call the DB, detention barracks, for a year. The story is that they would not let him play a saxophone like they did the musicians in Artie Shaw's band or Glenn Miller's band. Those musicians, they got to play as a band in the service. But for these black musicians, they had to pick up a gun and go to the front lines, and Lester just could not, he couldn't stomach that. He'd already had too much with the South. So he ended up in the detention barracks, and the story is they would let him out on weekends to play dances for the officers. Guess where he was locked up? Southern Alabama, back in the South. That was a torturous situation for him. And when he got out, he wrote a song called DB Blues. That is Detention Barracks Blues. Oh, he did hate it. Now, as I said, shortly after his last European tour, Lester did die at 49. He was loved by musicians. His signature pork pie hat, the language that we all speak, the hip language. Hey girl, how you doing? Whether he's talking to a man or a woman. Lady Day. That was just who he was. He created the hip language that all jazz musicians use to this very day. He created the hip manner of dress that all jazz musicians, well, used to adhere to. Upon his death, a few musicians were struck to the heart. And Charles Mingus wrote a song called Elegy, and later retitled it Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. It's a standard for the Mingus Big Band. Beautiful, beautiful tune. I've played it many times. It's a testament to Lester Young. And while a member of the Art Blakey Band, Wayne Shorter wrote a tune called Lester Leaps In. And that's also written in honor of Lester Young. It is quite memorable that one of the last great solos ever recorded by Lester Young is on one of the recordings from, I think it's 1957 Newport Jazz Festival where he is taking a solo on Lester Leaps In. It is one of his most creative and fiery solos of his later life. Perhaps he knew that would not be long before he'd hear his train coming. The great Lester Young, gentle spirit, tortured soul, creative genius, and the bridge between old saxophone style and the cool, inventive bop style that became popular during the bebop era, the hard bop era, and beyond. The president, not just of the saxophone, but the president of the human spirit in terms of his soft and generous heart. Thank you.